Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime Fuego here.
And we are back once again to do an annual tradition here on the Horror Show at this point, where we get to look at the upcoming films that are going to be spotlit at our favorite local, well, not only local, but in my opinion, my favorite
It's
horror film
international,
festival.
dude. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. It's both local and international, but we're here to
Local
talk
to
about
us, yeah.
the 2025 International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival. That amazing portion of the Phoenix Film Festival, the most important portion, let's be real about it. But yeah, we are back this year, and once again, we are able to welcome back friend of the channel, originally friend of Fuego,
Way
now
back in
friend
the day.
of mine in the channel, Monte Yazzie. Welcome back to the channel, sir.
What's up, man?
Hey guys, what's going on, man? Real happy to be here again. It's always a real pleasure to come and sit down and chat about the festival with you guys.
Yes,
Hell
sir.
yeah, man.
It's always good time, and we always find our new favorite movie when we're doing this.
Hey,
Hence
good.
the intention.
That's great. That's great.
All right, man. And so we always try to cover as much ground as we can, but obviously time is limited and stuff. And so this festival is running from March 27th through April 4th, if I remember correctly.
April 6th.
April 6th. Sorry.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. So it's basically 2 weekends and then like all of the nice like meaty stuff in between. And so the horror and science fiction stuff is what you specialize in. And so we're going to get a nice healthy dose of it. Often in the later evenings, but if you're coming on the weekends, you know, that first weekend or the second weekend, you have a lot of different time opportunities, right?
Oh yeah, so many different times. Weekends are going to be booming this year at the festival because, you know, both the Phoenix Film Festival and the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival are celebrating big years this year, or 20 years for IHSFF.
Woo!
And 25 years for
Wow.
PFF. So we are doing a lot of different events, and you know, we were just talking about it recently. Our first Saturday night is crazy.
Mhm.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Probably going to be the first time since, you know, before COVID that we'll really feel that giant film festival kind of
Swell.
atmosphere. Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, it's always kind of a like Tetris game of sorts, trying to figure out, you know, when you can fit everything together, especially, you know, with work and family and other responsibilities and things like that. But so how many years, this is something I just wanted to double down on because I don't recall specifics right now. How many years have you been involved with the festival now?
So it's pretty crazy. I tell people the story that I was an audience member in year one. Year one was kind of when I first started in the film festival. And then as I moved forward, I started to do a lot of volunteering. So about 2012, 2013, I started to do a little volunteering as like a liaison, a couple days here and there helping out with staff. And then about 2016 is when I was offered the gig of kind of taking over as the festival director. So I'm rolling into my 9th year now this year with the film festival, and it's been, you know, pretty amazing to see it grow over these many years, you know, having the challenge of going through a pandemic and trying to keep this thing rolling has just been pretty great. And we're really excited to have it, you know, back here this year, and, you know, just continues to get bigger and bigger and more diverse. So it's pretty awesome.
And then just a quick little shameless plug, you actually have a film that you had a producing hand in that is currently on Shudder. It's called
Yes,
Dead Thing.
Yes, I appreciate the trailer review, Cecil. I saw
yes.
a trailer review a few weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
You know, again, another dream come true, pretty big mileage, you know, from a guy who just loves movies a whole lot. But, you know, when you're working in the film festivals, you kind of get some knowledge adjacently through the different filmmakers that come through. And, you know, I figured back a few years ago, it was time to put some of that knowledge to use. And me and a good buddy of mine, Elric Kane, who also does another podcast called Colors of the Dark and the Pure Cinema podcast.
Nice.
Elric Kane came and I were sitting down here in Arizona, actually, and we were chatting about the opportunity of kind of like not waiting anymore to make movies. And, you know, we hand shook over a table and a couple of cocktails, and the next thing you know, it's 5 years later and we finished up a film. So The Dead Thing has been, you know, a dream, and it's been pretty amazing to see the reception. And, you know, when you make a movie, you never really know what's going to happen to it. And, you know, when you work for a film festival, you see filmmakers come through all the time that, they'll make a movie, and the film festival might be where it's at. That might be where their film ends. We are lucky to have seen some of those movies move on to distributors and find releases nationwide. But we got a phone call a few months back, and it was Shudder, and they said, we love the movie, we want to pick you guys up. So again, I don't pinch myself too hard because I'm worried I'm going to wake up a college kid trying to figure out how to do my first film. So so don't be surprising me too aggressively at the film festival. I don't want to go back in time, but it's been a really amazing experience. And I tell people that you learn so much by just saying, yeah, I'm going to do this, and the knowledge that you gain from taking those chances is it's pretty amazing, whether they're positive or good. And I've told people making a film is never easy. So there are days where you're on cloud 9, and then there's days where you're rolling through the mud. So but that's the joy of filmmaking. So it's been an amazing experience, and appreciate all the support, guys. I know you guys have been asking about it for the last couple years now, and I'm glad that everybody's been able to watch it.
Heck yeah, man. Congratulations on it.
Yeah, I was impressed with the performance from the lead. We haven't had the chance to review it yet, but the lead performance from the lady who's like the serial dater and everything was stellar, and the fact that it also hits some issues of possessive relationships and how that can have collateral damage and whatnot. So it was intriguing stuff. So the shameless plug over now, but check out the Dead Thing on Shudder, because of the fact that it's definitely worth your time. So okay, this year's festival 2025, we always break it into the fact that you have your showcases, and then you have your features, which are in the competition side of things, right?
Correct. Yeah. Our showcase section is usually films that are going to be picked up by distributors or have found some kind of success on the festival circuit, and are now looking and working with major companies to try to get their film out there a little bit more widespread. And then on the other side, we have our competition features and shorts, where we have 2 programs for horror and sci-fi for short films, and then we have 6 films total for both together for both horror and sci-fi. So 3 horror films and 3 sci-fi films in the sci-fi and horror categories.
Now, for the shorts, is our Danzig combatant still involved?
Oh yeah, my good buddy Danny Marinino is still taking charge of that, and he's really put some amazing time into it. I always tell people Danny thinks about the programs A and B almost like a mixtape. So he's looking for kind of that nice fluid, that nice little balance of films that are going to really kind of get the audience going. And I don't think Danny talks about it enough, but I'm here to kind of let everybody know that Danny's the guy that in terms of how many times he watches his program, it's pretty extensive. I mean, by the time that the first screening happens, Danny's had his eyes on it now for at least over 50 watches, just trying to find that balance of program A and B. And on the other side, our sci-fi side, Mike Stackpole is our programmer for both shorts and for features. And Mike does kind of a little bit of a different thing. He kind of looks at it a little bit more thematically. He's trying to look for, themes and, kind of an understanding of how, maybe some representation through all the different avenues of sci-fi are being represented in his program. So I tell people a lot, the horror sci-fi is only as strong as our programmers. And, my guys have an amazing wealth of experience. They've been here from the very, very beginning. So, in terms of long-standing, festival staff members, Danny, Brandon, and Mike are some of the guys that have been here from the very beginning. And, I trust their judgment, completely. And I really, really appreciate the hard work that they put into making the programs what they are.
And that's a good segue, because of the fact that, I'm not going to go because we're a horror channel, obviously, but one of the sci-fi features that I definitely wanted to mention, because I watched the trailer, totally intrigued, The Strange Dark. This is one that feels like it blends in a little bit of the horror thriller aspect based on the setup of a guy who thinks he can see the future, home invasion aspect. I mean, so it's definitely a genre mashing sort of situation.
Oh, very much. When Mike and I were talking about that film when we were watching it, part of it was this understanding of there's a lot of it that kind of could fit in the horror realm, but at its core, it still ends up being a sci-fi film. But one thing that movie does really well is kind of its grounded approach, while also really being engaged in sci-fi and horror. I feel like that's a really hard thing to do, especially when you're playing with genres like that. So, that film does have a really kind of an amazing accomplishment of like how it molds its narratives together, because it does feel so seamless. And they do such a great job, with kind of bridging those genres a little bit.
Yeah, that's some of my favorite science fiction, when it does incorporate a little bit of the scarific, spooktacular, all those silly terms that we like to throw around, here. So, okay, so as far as the 3 features on the horror side of things, all drastically different. I mean, we have Black Theta, which is like, survived a cult. It seems like there's like quirky, it's sort of like humor, almost like maybe Scream level if we're going to go more of like a mass audience sort of vibe. And then we also have the Crucifix Blood of the Exorcist, maybe one of the longest titles that I saw at the festival. But I mean, despite playing with familiar tropes, I feel like based on where it's set, it really seems like it's going to bring some very distinctive flavor to it. And then lastly, McCurdy Point, which has, going to Maine, how much of a Stephen King guy I am. So I dig that. What can you say, obviously briefly, about these 3 flicks that you want to tell our audience?
Yeah, Brandon does an amazing job of kind of like finding out, and finding out what's going to work best for the festival in terms of these competition films. He has a hard job. And, I think, guys like Danny and Mike, they get to build these short films out where you get to have kind of a wealth of different things come into play. And where Brandon every year, he only has 3 or 4 films that he's able to choose out of his, maybe 40 or 50 that he ends up getting submitted to the film festival. And, sometimes, he talks about it in terms of like, okay, if this film doesn't work, then we're going to do this film. Or if this film doesn't work, then we're going to go after this film. It's rarely ever here's the next best one, and that's going to fill in. Again, he's looking for that kind of an assortment of what you're getting. We always talk about it, every year we see these themes come in, and, these 3 films, while they are so drastically different, they are touching on very thematic things, and you can kind of feel it now. I think, separating ourselves now this far away from an epidemic and now dealing with these feelings that people are starting to really, maybe these unresolved feelings that people are having about this time missed in life.
Process,
yeah, you can feel it in these films, and even though like the comedy, you got one that's a little bit more comedic, you got one that's a little bit more of a kind of a slow burn process, and then one that's kind of in your face. You get these 3 different films that are really kind of tackling that understanding of like, hey man, we lost some time, and we're lonely, and we missed out on interactions, and we missed out on kind of connecting with people. And I think for the most part, all of the films that we have coming in are kind of playing with that theme now in a different way. This understanding of loneliness, this understanding of, what it feels to kind of have time taken away from you. And, these 3 films are doing that as well too. And again, like you said, you do a great job of kind of like explaining the fact that they are so drastically different. And I think that's my favorite part about these 3 ones is, you're going to find something that, if you're a horror movie fan, you're going to love all 3. If you're kind of maybe more in the comedic side, you're going to love the comedy one. If you're a little bit more in your face, you're going to love the in your face. And if you like one that's going to be a little bit more psychological, maybe a little bit more deep diving, then you're going to like that 3rd one that we have. So, big props to Brandon. He has a very hard job out of all of us because of the limited amount of space that he has for films.
Yeah, and also with shorts, because of the fact that you can, spend 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever, as opposed to like the dedicated amount of time necessary for taking in a feature and really processing it properly and giving it the proper consideration and everything, I think is definitely a big thing. So, and then jumping into the showcase, man. So you have, I guess I'll just, since I'm wearing the shirt, we have to talk about the fact that you have Twinner documentaries going down at the festival. So you have Dinner with Leatherface, and then you also have Chain Reactions. And so that's the one I'm a little bit more intrigued about, because that's the one that is basically showcasing how, pun intended, I guess, with the affiliation, but showing how that film influenced other creators after it came out. I mean, video game people, other filmmakers. I mean, it's just such a vast how far that net went. Talk about getting both of those together, and it's a great double billing. I think you have it one night where you can see them both back to back, right?
Yeah, that was, that's purposeful. We did 2 nights actually. Both of them are playing on the same night. I can't talk about these movies without telling people that, when people tell me, Monty, what's your favorite horror film? I have a whole bunch. It changes every single day.
Yeah.
But when people ask me what the greatest horror film ever made was, I always tell people it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because for me, what they did on that film, on the independent level and kind of a bunch of passionate filmmakers going out there and just doing something with limited resources, with just pure drive and passion to do something. Texas Chainsaw changed the game. There is clear ripples of where Texas Chainsaw Massacre landed in terms of the cinematic history and how it influenced horror films, moving forward. And, both of the films are wonderful examples of that. Chain Reactions is a really great documentary because for people who grew up on these films, I mean, me and you guys, who, live and breathe this stuff, you'll connect with everybody's ideas about how Texas Chainsaw influenced them. And I think for me too, there's parts of it where like, oh, I didn't even imagine it going that far in terms of its influence, or, even how maybe it's influenced, how, people understand comedy.
Yeah,
or how
because
people
is it Patton who's in it? I'm trying to remember.
Patton
Patton.
Yeah. So like this understanding of like, that it doesn't matter where you're from, you are influenced once you see that film. And I still remember when I first watched it, the VHS was in my friend's stepdad's little office area, and it was on the very, very top shelf, like tall enough that I couldn't reach it.
I was gonna say, was this Chris or Raymond or one of those guys?
This is Chris. Yeah.
Shout out, Gossett. Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't get to it. I remember thinking about it, and I remember he told me about it, and it wasn't until like I went to a cousin's house that he actually had it, and when we watched it, I remember being terrified. I thought it was real.
Scared the crap out of him. Yeah, because of how grainy all the film and just the little news announcement at the beginning. I mean, everything to my young mind, warped it, particularly well. So
Well, I think what works good about this double feature as well too is you get this understanding of here are all the influences that this film has had, and then on top of it, you get a behind-the-scenes look at the guy who wore the mask. Gunnar Hansen. I don't know if you guys have met him. I know you guys do a lot of cons.
We have met him, right? Doesn't he have a signature?
We didn't get his signature before he passed, unfortunately.
Oh,
yeah,
damn.
I met Gunnar a few years ago, probably back in like the late 2009, 2010, around there. And I remember sitting down with him, man, and he was just he's a gentle giant.
Yeah.
He just a nice guy, and just really was like a joy to be around. And the fact that, his, when you think about these people who are playing these real vicious roles, and I know you know it.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them are so, a lot of them are so kind, and they aren't anywhere near close to like how you might perceive them on screen, and or even like their attitude on screen. And like I still tell people, I my love for Candyman and Tony Todd,
rest peacefully. Ignored at the Oscars, which was
ignored at the Oscars. I was so upset about that.
And he was in Platoon, dude, which you guys have the whole anniversary thing for that too. Yeah. Oliver Stone is going to be at Phoenix Film Festival, dude. Yeah,
pretty crazy, I know. Yeah. But to have like when I first met Tony Todd, I still remember the effect of like seeing him at a distance and being like, oh man, that's this guy that I've been like kind of terrified of my entire life. And what made me like, no joke, like look over my shoulder when I'd go into a garage, any kind of parking garage, because I just remember that it's played such a role with me. And when I went up and talked to him, Tony Todd had nothing more that he wanted to talk about than Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And we talked about Shakespeare for like probably 25 minutes, and it was like the greatest, like this, you get to see it. You're like, oh, I understand now how Shakespeare and how your love for the theatrical arts are now influencing your performances on screen. And
with the wealth of his work, you can totally understand why that would be an obsession for him, man. I mean,
very much. So you got a great double feature, and I remember I was thinking, should I separate these movies? Should I put them somewhere else?
No.
And I was just like, no, man, we're gonna play them both same night so people can have the opportunity and really get that. I think they play so well together. It's not going to feel like you're at the movie theaters for 3.5, 4 hours when you sit down to watch these two, because they are so well put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have a brief little moment, refill your popcorn, your beverage, whatever, jump back at it, man. So we did mention Freaky Tales very briefly. So this is As far as cast, it's one of the higher profile ones. I mean, you've got Pedro Pascal. I mean, just like all kinds of big faces in this film.
Yeah.
It does hit theaters a week later, but I mean, support the festival, see it early for your vlog or to brag to your friends or whatever, I would say, right? And this is one of the few one-night onlys, correct?
Yep, this is one of the one-night onlys that we have. Freaky Tales is a mixtape of a bunch of different characters. It is a whole lot of fun. Pedro Pascal is phenomenal in it. The way that it kind of like interweaves all of these different characters is so ingenious. And I've been telling people I'm a hip hop head. The soundtrack is produced by Too Short.
Yeah.
So hey man, like that's enough for me to come watch it. And it's just a lot of fun. You know, it takes place in the '80s, basketball. I'm a big basketball guy, so it was pretty much a, you know, pun intended, a layup for me when I saw it, because I was like, oh, this has everything I love. So we're gonna play this one.
I mean, you know how much I love my, you know.
My
ball. I mean, they're not doing too good right now, but that's beside the point. It's breaking my heart, man. And there's another, it's not horror, but there's another very interesting animated Hoops film that's going to be at Phoenix Film Festival that I'm pretty stoked to check out too. Chris Paul has a hand in it. It's not horror though, so I won't burden you with it. But so, dude, another one that I have to ask about because of the fact that it was a Canadian top 10 at the end of the year, 40 Acres. I love these sort of dystopian, post-apocalyptic, but you're isolated, and there are people that are trying to infiltrate your safe compound of sorts. What can you tell us about this one? Because I had heard donuts about it until I was reading the synopsis.
40 Acres was a film that I just heard about through the grapevine. I heard some, you know, having a film in a festival this year made it pretty easy to kind of start seeing all these other movies that were happening. And every festival I went to, man, I always had somebody who came up to me and was like, hey, man, have you seen 40 Acres? Have you seen 40 Acres? And everybody was like really hyping it up, and I just missed it. But I remember getting a screener for it, and I went in completely blind. They didn't have a real trailer for it. Saw maybe one still for it, and I went and sat down with it. It's a phenomenal film. The performances are exceptional.
The director's IMDb is massive. So many music videos, like all kinds of different things over the course of a very lengthy career, which really shows he has the prowess. And it's very unique, and it's set up as well too. You know, people I think categorize these kind of films, and they'll say like, oh, it's a Jordan Peele-esque kind of movie, or you know, it's trying to get to that understanding of like how social commentary is influenced, you know, by genre filmmaking. But you know, at its core of it, it's just really ingenious storytelling. Dystopian world, you know, it's not too hard to get an understanding of like maybe, you know, what's going on with that. You know, like, you know, we're in a world right now that's still, you know, pretty tumultuous right now, and you know, maybe it won't be a plague, maybe it will just be our own foolhardy nature that's gonna take us down. But it's really an ingenious film, and you know, the horror elements are in this, but they do come at one point in time in the story. They're pretty aggressive, but it's really a story about togetherness and about how, you know, it's kind of at times, you know, yourself against the world, and it does such a great job. The performances are exceptional in it, though. They're really great, outstanding performances throughout the film. Yeah, this is one that has a very intriguing trailer that's floating around the interwebs for finally. And then you said there was no trailer. We do have one now, and it's on the PhoenixFilmFestival.com website. Y'all can check that out, guys. I know we're still trying to keep it brief, but I have to ask about the Damon, because of the fact that Lovecraftian craziness from the trailer that I watched. You see, Cecil doesn't watch the trailers. I kind of, you know, navigate those waters and, you know, get a taste for things. I was trying to even type Damon with the fact that you've got the A with the little E on the top, and it's, I guess you would have to have a specific sort of keyboard or whatever. But this one looks like it has loads of intrigue as far as old gods flavor and how that stuff seems to be just continuing to see a surge in popularity.
Yeah, again, another film that I saw during the festival run, and was just blown away by it. It's a crowd pleaser. I watched it with a really rowdy crowd, and they were really great. This was the last film that I picked up for Showcase, so this was the very last one that I came up with about maybe 3 weeks ago. Just, you know, everything you want out of it. You know, the description couldn't be more clear on what you're going to get out of it. Lovecraftian, you know, kind of a one man kind of in the forest kind of setup, but the creature effects are are pretty amazing.
There's some cool ass visuals in the trailer.
Yeah, combination of both practical and VFX. But they really lean hard into. You can tell that they're horror movie kids because they lean hard into that idea of like, what you see is going to just get worse and worse and worse and worse. They don't throw too much out there too quickly. So the fact that you have to kind of linger in what you're getting, and then all of a sudden you get the full view of it all. It's really, really fun. I don't want to give too much away, but it really is a great film. Bring some friends. You'll get a good kick out of it with a group of friends.
Nice. Yeah. And there's only 2 more I'm going to twist your arm about in the showcase, because there's a couple that, like Itch, for instance, A Desert, The G, like there's a little less information floating around about those as far as trailers and, like major synopsises or whatever. But so I really like the director behind Jimmy and Stiggs, because his body of work is just, it's got such a salty, crass kind of nastiness to it. I watched Christmas Bloody Christmas with a friend of mine, and he was like, God, there's so many F words. Like, what the heck is wrong with these people? I mean, and then he does VFW, and I thought Bliss was awesome. I mean, this guy has a hell of a track record, and this is a pandemic film for him, or it was yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, right? It was a film that took a very, very long time to make. Started in the pandemic. I think it honestly just finished maybe 7 or 8 months ago. So it's just recently been done. Joe Bigos is one of my favorite characters in the entire universe. He is a really, really fun guy, and he loves making movies. And he does such a great job in it. I don't know if it's out there yet, but Joe Bigos will be in attendance for the film festival. He'll be there on the first screening. He'll be in attendance with the other actor in the movie, Matt Mercer, who will also be here as well too. So both of them will be here on that Saturday night to kind of talk a little bit about their process and let fans have that behind the scenes experience, which is sometimes some of the best times at the film festival. And Jimmy and Stiggs will not let you down. It is everything that you expect from him as a filmmaker. It's a lot of fun. There's some great comedy in it. But I can't say more about Joe
I was going to say, because even the description is a little on the vague side, like psychedelic, drug-addled sort of insanity and whatnot. Which with aliens.
With aliens.
There you go. So I always dig that flavor. Hell yeah! So I may have to alter my itinerary then if that's the weekend. Okay. All right. And then lastly, Dead Lover. I have seen that picture of, I guess she's the star, the writer, director, with the pale makeup and everything. I've seen that photo floating around on Bloody and all of the different, social sites that cover horror for the longest time. Kind of a Frankenstein retelling from what I understand. What can you shed light about this one, man?
Oh, Dead Lover is independent filmmaking at its best. Just a passion from one person to kind of put something together and make it their own unique vision. It really feels like it's done in one space. Feels almost like a stage performance at times. But the craftsmanship that they put into the film, the understanding of how they're going to light things and really manipulate the environments, it's really pretty astounding how they made this film. I always tell people, that part of when we're showcasing, building a showcase, yes, we're looking for some of the best films that we can find to get out there, but we're also looking for a wide variety of different things. So, for those people that may go watch Jimmy and Stiggs on a Saturday night, when you go watch Dead Lover the following weekend, it's going to be 2 completely different tones. And I love that. I love that we're able to do this very wide assortment. There's a lot of different examples of the kind of horror films that we have. But Dead Lover is really pretty amazing with, just the ambition that's behind it. And I really appreciate it when a filmmaker puts something out there and puts their all behind it and really makes it their unique vision. I just find it really admirable. And the film, does a great job of really making its own unique brand on a Frankenstein story, and does a really amazing job in performances, directing, and then the craftsmanship of it all is pretty great as well too.
Yeah, all the hats that she wears. As I was going through the IMDb, man, it was just like goodness. I mean, writing and producing and directing and acting, and I mean that's that's when you truly have the passion for it, obviously.
Oh yeah, very much, very much.
So since we are nearing the end of things, so there is obviously the Phoenix Film Festival that kind of is a big part of this entire process. And so we're not going to go through a ton of things, but there were just 2 titles, well, I guess 3 now that I think about it, that they didn't make it into your camp specifically, but they are definitely adjacent enough where Afterlife Crisis looks like it's very goofy and funny. I mean, you're a ghost and you're like having a crisis about being a ghost, which I thought was kind of cute. And then Can I Get a Witness is one that's got some pretty decent talent involved, and it's not horror obviously, but it's got some kind of scary thematics about, hey, check it out, if we're gonna put like a time limit on how long people can live, and then they have to agree to just die, and for the furtherment of society. And then lastly, Seance. I mean, be as brief as possible. Which of these 3 do you think really the horror fans, I guess, might find the most interest in?
Well, all 3 of them that you put out there are from, in some way, shape, or form, influenced by past film festival alumni. Seance is actually done by Vivian Kerr, who had a film a few years ago, and it's just there's no better way to say it. She's an exceptional director, and she's also an actress in her films as well too. She's a force, man, and she's so talented, and her film Seance is really brilliant. I really enjoyed that movie. The other 2 are actually 2 that I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch yet, but look for me in the audience. I'll probably be sitting there with you because I already have them on my list as well too. So I always tell people, we programmed this whole festival, but Monte at his core is still a film festival goer as well too. So oftentimes I'm sitting in the audience watching these films with everybody else. The other 2 are actually 2 that I actually was talking at our most recent meeting, in terms of like, hey, I'm watching these movies. They're on my list, but I know Seance is pretty great. Vivian Kerr is a great director and actress. So I'm excited to see her film as well.
Yeah, and it's a period piece. It looks stellar. And I mean, as far as some local Arizona flair, I have intrigue about 10 Feet Down as well. Which looks like the horror fans could have some interest in it, So coolness, man. Well, that is, I guess, gonna wrap things up. Although you had, were we gonna hit the?
Yeah. I think just because it's the 20th anniversary of the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival, why don't we each just hit one of our favorites? Doesn't have to be our very favorite, but one of our favorites from the past number of years. And I'll go ahead and start. As I was thinking of them, I easily had 7 come to mind. But the one I'm going to go with, the one that I will rewatch until I die, because it's one of the best versions of a horror comedy that's ever been put out, because not only is it so funny, not only is the idea, like, I'm a gimmick horror guy. I love gimmick horror. This is definitely, could be, Smile is gimmick horror. Gimmick horror, gimmick doesn't have to be bad. It's just what it is. It's gimmick horror.
And it's what you
This
do
is
with
a
it,
gimmick
too.
horror where people get sucked into a horror movie, right? But there was so much heart that I literally cried 2 different times in the movie. And The Final Girls is just one of the best horror movies I've seen. And it was, I'll never forget the year too. It was 2017 because it just has stuck out to me for so long, for so many years. God, it's really gross that it's been 8 years since that has come out now.
I mean, this is like our 8th or 9th year covering the festival.
But it's one that I still, like, if people are like, oh, what's a horror movie that's good? I'm like, have you seen The Final Girls? If they haven't, especially if they've seen any Jason movies, then I'm like, watch. And
I mean,
Final Girls.
Tysa and Malin are both.
Yeah,
excellent.
I mean, they're the hearts of the story. So Final Girls for me.
I can tell you a backstory about that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That was my second year, I think, doing this this festival director thing, and I remember I had a brand new, the first time ever coming to the film festival. The mom and her daughter were coming, and the daughter was like really interested in horror, and mom wasn't sure where to take them. And I remember Jason Carney was like, "Hey, you got to go talk to Monte. He'll guide you the right way." And when they came over, I said, "Final Girls, watch Final Girls. You'll love it." That young lady is still coming to the film festival, has already done like 3 short films,
Nice.
all of them horror films,
Nice.
and is just a passionate film horror advocate, and is going to school on the East Coast, finishing up her, I want to say her master's degree in genre studies or something like that.
Wow.
All got her start here at the Phoenix Film Festival, and I'll never forget it. Mom was like, "This is kind of our first time doing it, like, and this will maybe be like her second or third horror film, but definitely one that isn't known." And I'm like, "Final Girls, go check it out. I think you'll love it." She loved it.
That's awesome.
And I just love that. So great pick.
Heck yeah. Fuego, what about you?
Oh, I always go Greasy Strangler, man, because of the
Oh,
fact that
my
I had the
goodness.
chance to interview those guys at Mad Monster
Yeah.
afterwards, and just the fact that they could feel my affinity for such a weird movie, you
Yeah.
know, but it spoke to my sensibilities of, like, just the Tim and Eric gross out, like, just insanity, and just the gore, but done playfully, and I mean, it's just
I got
it's a
I got
delight,
a story
man.
about that one too.
Yeah.
Got a story about that one too. On our Saturday night, we played it in one of our latest time slots. I think it was
That
like
was when,
10:50
dude,
at
I
night.
was in the theater, and you were like,
Yeah.
"I'm so glad you stuck around to watch this."
Yeah.
Like, you were standing by the side, and
Oh,
yeah.
I watched the whole thing from the side. I got mean looks at him from like maybe 10 people who walked out about
Some
halfway
people
through.
walked out. I remember.
Yeah. But I still remember the guys from Night of Something Strange.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm still friends
there.
with Merchant on Facebook.
Yeah. And they were dying. And when I looked around the room and I was like, okay, Jaime's here, the Night of Something Strange guys are here, my buddy Kittle's here. I looking around the room, I'm like, okay, the people that are going to stick around for this are here, and they're into it, and they love it. And still to this day, I got festival people who come up to me and they'll say, hey man, I'll never forgive you for Greasy Strangler.
Oh man,
love
well,
it.
I would say that, you know,
Yeah.
the fact that you programmed it means you are not a bullshit artist, all right? So,
No, not a bullshit artist. I was a tutti frutti disco cutie.
There you
That's
go.
what I was.
So, but Monty, before you give yours, one did just pop in my head, and I know I got this from you, and I think it was a festival highlight as well, but it's the one that I think has had the most impact from people that I've recommended it to that have watched it. One Cut of the Dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That, because I remember you even saying, you're like people that wanted to leave or whatever, you're like, trust me, just stay and stick with it. And that, like, again, when the movie ended at 45 minutes, I was like, what is going on? And then as an aspiring and attempting filmmaker, like, it just couldn't be closer to my heart. You know, that movie was so special.
I still haven't seen the French remake, but I
I
just haven't
don't
felt
think
the
it
need
could.
to,
It probably
you know,
pales in
but-
comparison. It's just, it was so good.
So I watched that at the Asian American Film Festival in San Diego.
Hmm.
And I went there on a whim. I didn't know what I was going to go. I had a free night on some travel I was doing. And I was like, I'm going to go check this out. I watched 2 movies. I don't remember what the first movie I watched was, because the second movie was One Cut of the Dead.
Yeah.
And it was a packed theater full of mostly Asian Americans that were there. And the nuance in, like, cultural differences and, like, the places that audience laughed at and the places that non-Asian American audiences laughed at are so different. And I love that about that movie. And I remember coming back and saying, hey, like, no matter what happens this year, I have to get this movie. And I'll never forget it. I told you guys, I said, hey man, before you finish up your year-end review, go watch One Cut of the Dead. It's on Amazon. You guys went and watched it. 2 days later, that director came out and said it was illegally put on Amazon. And I felt so bad for, like, pumping it out. But I was also
That's how
so
I
happy
saw
because-
it, though. I was
Yeah,
and I was
I
so
remember.
glad. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I jumped on that right on time, because that was one I was way ahead of the curve on. Like, nobody had seen that except you, because, like, you know, it was such a small thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so dope. It's
Oh,
it's
good.
the only. I actually have 2 copies of the Blu-ray. I have the American one, and I couldn't wait for the American release, so I actually bought the foreign release of it. It was so good.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, what's yours then, Monty?
Yeah.
You have to have
So
a favorite.
I'll do one as a festival goer, and I'm going to do one as a festival director.
There
Okay.
you go.
So as a festival goer, I remember Brandon Kitchen telling me to go watch Found in, like, 2012. And this movie played on a Saturday at, like, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Found should never be played before 10 o'clock at night. This movie was violent and audacious and you know, it was in poor taste all the way around. And when you have a Saturday film festival, you're not just getting the horror sci-fi people at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're getting the crossover from horror sci-fi. Man, I have never seen an audience more upset and an audience more just amused and so excited for what they saw. Because this is going to fall in the realm of like some of your, you know, this is going to fall in the realm of some of those real like violent films that people talk about. And the things that happen in this movie are just awful and atrocious, but it's so well done. And I remember leaving the screening and I remember telling somebody right after that, I said, hey man, if that's what they're doing here, these kind of movies, you know, and like these things that because I was so shocked that, you know, that I had seen something like that at a film festival that I was like, hey man, I got to do more of this. I got to find my way to work here a little bit more, you know, full time, you know, kind of thing. And that was kind of my push to it. So Found was a great one. I tell people, man, it's not for everybody. Don't take this as like Monty's recommending everybody go out and watch this. But if you like to explore those horror extremes, Found is one for you. And it's a pretty crazy movie. I'm going to do one more. I know we're cheating. We only said one. But I remember watching way back, probably in the first few years of the film festival, I stuck around for a midnight screening of The Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky. And that movie started at midnight. I think it ended at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was maybe 6 of us in that theater. Just completely blown away by this wild film. I had heard of Jodorowsky a couple times, but I had never seen really anything at that time, and Holy Mountain just blew me away. Still one of my all-time favorite movie experiences. Still one of my most favorite films ever when people talk to me about it. And as a festival director, I was going to say One Cut of the Dead was probably a big one for me, but I think the one that really started to get the Phoenix Film Festival side of the program with a little bit more understanding of, oh, like the horror stuff that they got isn't so crazy or isn't going to scare me. It's not going to, it was really when we started to promote crossover horror more aggressively. And that's Dave Made a Maze.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, Dave Made a Maze was that film that came across my table. I was so amazed at the filmmaking and how they did it and the funniness of it. You know, that really kind of oddball mentality as well, too, that went into it. And the fact that it played with genre, I thought was really well done. And I remember telling so many people on the Phoenix Film Festival side, hey, man, come watch this movie. You're going to love it. We screened it twice, and I think it was so well received that Jason put another one on the schedule because we sold out. I think the first one, the second one was sold out almost immediately, and then the third one was sold out as well. And I'll never forget the response from that movie because people came up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, Monty, I didn't realize that's what these horror films could be. I didn't realize that's how we were going to do it." And you know, I know that guys like you're going to come out and see the film festival no matter what I do, and I appreciate about you guys. But you got to keep these programs going, right? You got to keep film festivals growing, and the way that you make it grow is by finding new people to come in and be your new advocates. And that's what, you know, some of these crossover films have done. And Dave Made a Maze was one that was really big for us, and really like kind of started to get us talked about a little bit more as like, oh, like these guys are a genre film festival, but they will take risk and they'll find films that maybe don't fit so easily in the horror or sci-fi category and still play around with them. So I always tell people sometimes there's movies that don't fit a genre, but they have to go somewhere. You know, you have to find a space for them somewhere. And I'm more than happy to take it and accept them as part of our beloved genre in some way, shape, or form and put it out there. So that was one that I just really loved. And I know you guys loved it. I know it's some of your favorites as well, too.
I mean, from the comedy and the creativity, and I mean, it was very much up my alley with just the entire vibe between the relational dynamic and all of it. Yeah. It was just doing so much with so little, and still just wows me. I know it's streaming somewhere. I would have to double check if I was going to give it the proper. It was on Prime at one point. It's kind of floated around, but you know, if you guys have any interest, anyone checking out this video, go rent it. You know, make sure the filmmakers get a little bit of money. You know,
and
go watch it.
One just popped in my head. Tell me, hopefully this isn't. I'm not misremembering, but I only saw it once, and I think it was at a film festival, and it never got a wide release.
I'll Take Your Dead?
No. That got a wide release. I have the Blu-ray. This one never even got a Blu-ray release or anything. Is MSTK one of yours?
MSTK.
It was the
Ooh.
kids. It was it was like kids investigating a creature in the house.
That was definitely one of his.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you're right. Yes, it was.
It was from a
I
few
just,
years
yeah, that
ago.
was one of mine. That was a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of ours.
I love it. Was
I'm
very
gonna-
summer
yeah.
of '84. That's why I
Yeah,
liked
very
it so
summer
much,
of
because there were
84, yeah.
actually stakes in it, you know, like, and I've actually followed up with the director on Facebook, like, as recently as 6 months ago. I've checked in with him a couple of times over the last few years, just being like, hey, is there any chance you have a Blu-ray of that? Because I never got, you know, it never got a release. And actually, most recently, he was like, actually, yeah, I have a couple, you know, I could send you one. And he's just, I have to kind of stay on top of him because he gets distracted with other stuff. He said he was going to send one. He asked for my address, but it hasn't shown up. So I got to check back in with him. But that movie was so good, dude. And that's
go watch that one.
So like the only place to have seen it is at Monte's Festival. So that's why you got to make an attempt and come to the festival, because you could see a movie that you love that you'll never get an opportunity to see again.
And that's the great thing as well, is because of the fact that here is we're ending the video. We're going to be giving away a few flex passes to some peeps to so that gives them the opportunity for, is it 4 films?
4 films. Yep.
Yes, 4 films.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, we are giving away some flex passes to anyone that's watching this, hopefully all the way to this point. Comment down below. And if you comment, give us your favorite festival movie, you know, or something similar if you haven't been to a festival. Let us know what that is down in the comments below. That'll enter you in for the drawing, and we'll select a few people to get those flex passes.
We're going to throw it on all the socials as well.
Yeah. It has to be,
in case,
obviously, if you're in Arizona, or if you're willing to come to the festival in Arizona.
March 27th through April 6th.
Yep, March 27th through April 6th. And you come on down. You might find your favorite movie. You know what I mean?
It's the intention.
So thank you, Monte, for doing it again.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to make an appearance in the background of all of your videos that you do in front of the theater.
Just
That's my
walking
whole
by.
goal.
Yep.
I'm like, wait a second, guys, I can't talk anymore. I got to go walk in the background of the horror shows live at the film festival post review.
Yeah, it's been
Him
last
and
year
Jason
we didn't
Carney
get to do
have
that
been in
many,
the background
but
of
this
a
year we
number
want
of
to get back to it, because we were just having time constraints last year, I think is what it was. Getting time to get out there to film in between movies.
And also the
after
fact that I'm about to finish that film and media studies at Arizona State degree, man. So they just accepted me to the master's program to continue on with it. I'm doing it late in life, dude, but you know, it's still exciting stuff. So yeah, I've loved it.
Man, hey, let me just give you guys a little heartfelt here. I remember meeting you guys for the first time when you guys came to the film festival, and just absolutely adoring your love for cinema, your love for movies, the fact that you guys are doing something pretty great. Cecil, to see you grow as a filmmaker over these last few years, man, has just been an absolute joy to watch. I love watching you chase your dreams. I love the passion that you put into Dylan's New Nightmare, man. It was such a joy to go to that screening, man. Let me tell you, you know, it was great to see you up there. Great to see you get your flowers at that screening. And it's just a joy. And Jaime, man, you know, we have a long history.
We do.
I still remember as you that little kid that used to follow us around.
Yeah, with the flat top.
We used to, with the flat top, and with always trying to watch something that we were watching, the older kids. And, but hey, man, you know, I know that one day you're going to probably be teaching circles around many of these professors in terms of their genre, you know, love, and, you know, what you're doing with your education is really amazing, guys. And it's pretty amazing to see you guys grow over all these years. And, you know, I'm real proud of you. I'm real proud of all the work that you do. I always tell people, you know, horror show guys will always have a place in my heart, man. You guys have done great work, and I'm real proud of your efforts.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Well, I appreciate it. And, you know, if all goes according to my plan, hopefully we'll be able to develop into a different kind of business relationship here, working on something together.
That's right.
So, yeah.
As soon as this film festival is over, Cecil, we're going to have a conversation.
Well,
because I've been looking at some things.
Okay,
so,
cool. Yeah, because, well, good, because Vince got me my notes, got me his notes, and I'm on page 35 of my reread in order to jot down exactly what I'm going to move where. And the weakest part of the script was always the characters, and the notes address that specifically. And the script is I can't wait to send it to you the new draft. Like, yeah, so
Great.
This is
Yeah,
gonna,
I was gonna
it's-
say,
it's
so
gonna
for
be
all
excited,
viewers, that's behind the curtain
Yeah,
stuff
just
that
a
you're
little
getting
bit
just
behind
a
the
tiny little morsel
But
of.
that's
So.
how this shit happens, you know. Come to the
That's
festival,
true.
meet people.
Yeah.
If you're interested in making movies, who knows? You might develop a relationship, a friendship with someone that can help you do that. So
Yeah. Well,
it can't
hey.
happen if you don't come to the
Yeah.
festival.
I
That's
still
right,
remember,
that's right.
I mean, all the way back to when Tim and I were in grade school, Tales from the Hood and, you know, things of that.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Things of
yeah,
that fun
all the
nature.
time,
Yeah.
all the time.
All right, so
Right on, dude.
So yeah, thank you again, Monty, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Have a good one. We'll see you at the festival.
All
Major
right,
pleasure,
so
brother.
until next time, you guys. I've been Cecil Laird,
Gracias, up and Jaime and Fuego.
and remember, stay scared.